In the late 18th century, societies began to question the brutal punishments common at the time: public executions, torture, and excessive displays of state power. Critics argued that such methods were not only cruel but ineffective. They called for punishments to be proportional to crimes, humane, and focused on reforming behavior rather than inflicting pain. This shift was driven by philosophers, legal reformers, and public sentiment, marking a turning point in how societies viewed justice and control. Before this period, punishment was a public spectacle. Executions and torture were meant to showcase the sovereign's absolute power. The condemned person's body became a stage for demonstrating authority, with pain and death serving as warnings. However, this approach had flaws. Public executions often sparked sympathy for the condemned or even riots, as people saw the state's violence as tyrannical. The connection between the sovereign's vengeance and the people's anger created a dangerous cycle. Reformers argued that such punishments failed to prevent crime and instead bred resentment. A key idea emerged: punishment should respect the humanity of the criminal. This did not mean being soft on crime, but ensuring that penalty was rational, consistent, and aimed at preventing future offenses. Thinkers like Beccaria argued against the death penalty and torture, proposing instead that punishments should deter crime through certainty and moderation. For example, a thief would be less likely to steal if they knew a predictable penalty awaited them rather than facing arbitrary brutality. This approach required clear laws, fair trials, and a focus on rehabilitation over revenge. Economic and social changes also influenced this shift. As society moved toward capitalism, property crimes like theft became more common than violent crimes. The old system, designed to handle sporadic violence, struggled to address these new challenges. Authorities began to see traditional punishments as outdated. Instead, they sought methods to control populations more effectively through surveillance, prisons, and laws that protected property rights. The rise of factories and cities demanded a disciplined workforce, and irregular, harsh punishments disrupted this order. A new economy of punishment emerged, where the goal was to manage illegalities like theft systematically rather than through sporadic terror. Reformers also targeted the legal system's flaws. Under the old regime, justice was inconsistent, courts overlapped in authority, laws were unevenly applied, and the wealthy could often escape punishment. The king's power to pardon or interfere in trials created unpredictability. Reformers pushed for a unified legal code, transparent procedures, and professional judges. Punishment became less about the sovereign's whims and more about maintaining social order. This required a shift from personal vengeance to impersonal, standardized rules. A major theme was the idea of leniency. This did not mean softer but using punishment strategically. Instead of brutalizing the body, the state aimed to influence the mind. Laws and penalties were designed to shape behavior through fear of consequences. For example, public executions were replaced with prisons where criminals could be monitored and corrected. The focus shifted from physical pain to psychological control, creating a system where people internalize the rules and police themselves. This approach relied on the belief that humans or rational actors avoid actions leading to predictable harm. However, this new system had contradictions. While it claimed to be humane, it expanded the state's power to monitor and control. Police forces grew, laws became stricter, and minor offenses were punished more harshly. The bourgeoisie, now dominant, prioritized protecting property over addressing root causes of crime like poverty. Vagrancy laws targeted the poor, while white collar crimes like fraud were often handled leniently. The legal system became a tool for maintaining class divisions, punishing the marginalized while shielding the powerful. Another innovation was the individualization of punishment. Judges began considering the criminal's background, intentions, and likelihood of reoffending. This marked a move away from one size fits all penalties. For instance, a starving person who stole food received a lighter sentence than a wealthy thief. This required understanding criminals as complex individuals, not just lawbreakers. Over time, this led to the rise of criminology, the scientific study of crime, which sought to classify offenders and tailor punishments accordingly. Despite these changes, the core tension remained. How can society balance justice, deterrence, and humanity? The 18th century reforms laid the groundwork for modern systems but also revealed deeper issues. The shift from public torture to prisons masked new forms of control. The states became more subtle, embedded in laws, institutions, and everyday surveillance. Punishment was no longer a bloody spectacle but a calculated tool to shape behavior, protect property, and maintain order. The transformation of punishment in the 18th century reflected broader societal shifts, Enlightenment ideals, economic changes, and the rise of the modern state. While reformers succeeded in abolishing the worst excesses of cruelty, they created a system that extended state control into every aspect of life. The focus on rationality, efficiency, and humanity masked new mechanisms of power, proving that the evolution of punishment is never just about justice but always about the balance of authority and freedom in society.